Hey DIYers, I'm George from Alarm Grid. Today I'm going to be showing you guys all the different response types that you can use on a Honeywell SiXPIR. So the SiXPIR is a 6 series motion sensor that you can use right now only on the Lyric controller. So if you guys have an L5210, an L7000, even a Vista system with a wireless Honeywell receiver, these SiXPIR motions will not work with those systems. They only work with the Lyric controller. Now there are about 6 or 7 different response types for this motion sensor. I'm going to go over them later on in the video on how they set off the system in different ways. But you have interior follower with delay, perimeter, day and night, general response, general monitor, resident response, resident monitor. All right, so that's actually 8 different response types that you can use on the SiXPIR with the Lyric. There's about 8 different response types that you can use with the Lyric. However, when you're programming this into your system, there's only 2 device types that you can choose, one that actually works. So device types is whenever you're selecting what kind of sensor it is: door, window, motion, fire, smoke, CO, panic. All right, so these, when you learn them into the system, will either learn in or will only have the option of motion or new. You can only select motion if you want to save the zone programming. If you select new, it will not be an enabled zone. So when you're selecting the device type, you need to make sure that you're selecting motion. Now, this is different for those of you who have ever had an older Link system or Honeywell Vista system. When you're programming in 5800 series motions, like the 5800 PIR for instance, the device type, you can actually switch it to other. And when you select other, you get a whole bunch of different options in the list for response types. When you select other, you have a lot more options than the 8 I just gave you for the response type that we're going to get on the Lyric system. Why? Because selecting other, you're going to get a different response types such as auxiliary, panic, environmental, just different response types that you normally wouldn't get, especially when you're using this sensor. Since it is an intelligent sensor, it only allows you to choose device types between you and motion. All right, so you want to make sure you select motion if you want the programming to work. So many people also wonder about the SiXPIR, if there's a response type that's called occupancy sensor. So what an occupancy sensor does is it allows you to automatically change a building's temperature or lights in that area wherever the motion is detecting, and it allows you to change it whenever motion is detected in that area. Now, there's no way to directly do this with the SiXPIR. You would actually need to use Z-Wave devices and scenes. Now, you can create scenes from the panel. If you have Total Connect, you can also create scenes. So like I said, you can't do it directly. However, for instance, let's say if I have a motion in my living room and I have a scene in my Lyric system or my Total Connect account that whenever the motion is tripped to turn on the lights, you can go ahead and do that. Now, the thing with these sensors is, remember, they do have a sleep timer, which is since these are battery operated, in order to conserve power, whenever the sensor is tripped, it actually goes into a sleep mode for about 3 minutes because it's detected movement, and then it'll come back up. So that's something very important to know if you're looking to basically, you know, if you want to walk past it to enable the lights and then walk past it again to disable it, it doesn't exactly work like that because there is a sleep mode. So there is a sleep timer. So you want to take that into account whenever you're creating scenes through Total Connect or through the panel. So now we're at the part in the video where I'm going to show you guys how the different response types make the Lyric system act whenever this sensor is tripped. So we have perimeter. Perimeter, if you walk past this sensor while the system is armed, it will set off the alarm immediately. All right, there is no entry exit for this and no entry exit delay. It sets off the alarm right away. Interior follower, what that does is if you walk past it while the system is armed and you have not tripped an entry exit zone, then it'll set off the alarm. If you have tripped an entry exit zone, then the sensor actually follows the entry exit delay and it will not set off an alarm. All right. The interior follower with delay. Interior follower with delay. If you walk past it, this sensor will always have an entry exit delay period. No matter if you don't have a sensor on your front door, if you walk past this sensor, since it's set to interior follower with delay, it automatically has that delay, which allows you to go to the system and arm it and disarm it. All right. Now for the other ones, day, night, general response, general monitor, resident response, resident monitor. I actually want to show you guys how those interact. So I'm going to learn this into the panel real quick. We have a video that shows you how to program in the SiXPIR to the Lyric system. So I'm going to basically just brush past this real quick. And if you guys need help programming it in, look up that video. But I'm going to show you guys right now what the different response types will do. So I'm going to go into security, tools. I enter in my installer code, which yours might be different. Mine is defaulted at 4112. I'm going to go to program, zones. I'm going to go to zones. Let me take my cover off my SiXMotion real quick. SiXPIR. All right, getting ready to learn it in. All right, so it automatically learned into zone 3. I'm going to hit zone 3 and edit. So what the day and night response type, which is right here, what day and night does, it actually causes a trouble on the system. And I'm going to put my motion down real quick so I don't set it off so it doesn't detect my heat right away. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on day and night, and I'm going to wave my hand in front of it. And you're going to see that it's actually going to set off a trouble on the system. Trouble, motion 3 sensor. And it'll keep doing this until you disarm it. So I'm going to go ahead and disarm it with my master code, which is defaulted at 1234. There's a difference between installer and master code. So that's day and night. Let me show you guys, oops, sorry, a trouble you have to disarm twice, by the way. Now I'm going to show you guys the different programming, the different response type. So we just did day and night. I'm going to hit edit. Now I'm going to show you guys resident monitor. So what resident monitor is going to do is just going to monitor the zone. When I wave my hand in front of it, it'll let me know that the sensor has been faulted, but then it'll disappear after about 10 or 15 seconds.
Activity detected. Motion sensor. Activity detected.
And if you have voice and chime enabled, then it'll actually say,
Activity detected. Motion sensor.
if you have a descriptor, it might also say that as well. So if you have it set to living room motion, but then it disappears. By the way, resident monitor, resident response, those do not log to your activity, to the activity log, okay? So let me go back into tools. Let me show you guys resident. We just did resident monitor. Let's do resident response. Now, resident response means you actually have to respond to the zone. So it's actually going to give me a prompt up there, and it's going to make me enter in a code to release that prompt. So if you guys want to monitor a zone and you want to make sure that the system leaves a message up there until you acknowledge it, until you respond to it, this was a good one to use also.
Activity detected. Motion
Now
sensor.
this is going to stay up there until I actually go in and hit cancel and enter in a code. So it will stay there the whole time until someone responds and acknowledges it. So if I hit
Activity detected. Motion
cancel and I enter in my master code again,
disarmed. Ready to arm. Time.
cool. Again, I'm going to go into security,
Armed. Ready to arm.
tools,
Time.
go back into programming. Sorry, I'm rushing through this. I just need to show you guys the different response types. General monitor. I'm going to back out. Now, the general monitor and general response, these will log to the event log. However, they do not report to the central station still. So the resident response, resident monitor, general response, general monitor do not report to a central station. Now, let me show you guys what the general, I think we set it to general monitor does.
Activity detected. Motion sensor.
And that's it. It just announces that the sensor has been tripped. But that's pretty much it. It still allows you to arm, disarm. Nothing crazy happened there. Now let's set it to general response. This, remember, the response, you have to respond to the system. So you have to acknowledge it. So it won't give me that same prompt, that resident response, but it'll actually have it like in the background, which you'll see right now.
Activity detected. Motion sensor.
And it'll leave that motion detected 3. It'll leave it on there until you acknowledge or respond to it. So now you see how it doesn't have a disarm, like how the trouble and the resident response had the cancel. The day and night had the disarm because of the trouble. Now this one actually just lets me know that the motion has been detected. You can still arm, you can still disarm it, but if you want the panel to stop announcing that motion, you have to hit the home button twice and disarm it. See, motion detected. You have to enter in your code. Once you enter in your code and you've acknowledged it, well, the system goes back into a ready to arm. It stops announcing that the motion has been detected because you've already acknowledged it, and that is pretty much it. So those are the general response, general monitor, resident response, resident monitor, and day and night. Those are the 5 ones that a lot of people usually have questions on because they don't know how they work. Again, remember, the day and night will set off a trouble. The general response, general monitor, resident response, resident monitor do not report to the central station. The resident response and resident monitor do not log anything to the event log. However, general response, general monitor will log it to the event log. These 4, none will report to the central station though. So if you want a motion sensor that won't report to the central station, but you want the panel to announce, you might want to use one of these 4 different response types. And you saw how each one worked, so you guys can play around with whichever one will whatever one would work best for you. All right. If you guys have any questions about the response types, please feel free to email us at support@alarmgrid.com. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit like underneath, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications so whenever we upload new content, you guys get notified. I'm Jorge, and I'll see you guys next time.